Hey guys, so like I said, I'm going to be reviewing the Hellraiser movies. So, this is my little continuation, and this one's going to be my review of Hellbound Hellraiser II. So, this one came out a year after the first movie. This one was not directed by Clive Barker, though. This one was directed by Tony Randall. However, Clive Barker was a producer of this one, so we got that. And it still has the Clive Barker vibe to it. So, let's get into this. This one picks up years later, and the daughter from the first movie, well, her name is Christy, she's in this mental institute now after what happened in the first movie. So, like, basically people think she's crazy after, like, this whole talk of, like, demons killing her, her father and her stepmom, as well as also her uncle and whatnot. So yeah, now she's locked up in this mental institute, and this the head of the mental institute is like this guy who's obsessed with the occult, and so he picks up the box from the first movie, and then after he personally does listen to what Christy says, well, all the events of the first movie, so he resurrects her stepmom, that unfaithful wife that I mentioned in the review of the first movie. So she's resurrected and brought back all skinless, just like what her her lover was. Like, he was all brought back all disgusting, all bloody, skinless. And I'm gonna say the effects for all the skinless look was actually pretty good too, just like in the first movie. So continued having some pretty good gore effects, some pretty good practical effects. Another thing is also besides bringing her back, he also unleashes the Cenobites in the mental institute, and also brings us right to hell. So basically the Cenobites start bringing hell into that mental institute, start going after Christy again, and and just like in the first movie, Doug Bradley, who plays Pinhead, was pretty good. As well as also, the other actors who played the Cenobites were all pretty good as well. The acting was, in general, pretty good in this one. Not as good as the acting from the first movie, though, but it was in general pretty good. The practical effects were all very good. There were some green screen effects, though, that don't really hold up. I mean, I'm sure people were wowed by them back in the 80s, but today this doesn't really hold up. I also really do like how in this one, since in the very first movie, this one, Pinhead just shows up whenever someone opens the box. There's no story of his existence of any sort. He just mentions that he's a demon from hell, and that when you open the box, it summons him as well as all his Cenobites. So there's no real story behind him. However, this one actually goes into his story. We find out where he came from, that he was a human at first, and when he opened the box instead of killing him, it basically took him and turned him into the Cenobite known as Pinhead. So I actually thought that was pretty good, was showing his origins. I'm sure maybe some people would probably not like that, but I thought it was pretty good. As well, also it leads to a pretty interesting thing at the end, which I'm not going to give away. So another thing I did like is, since my only complaint with the first movie is that Pinhead and the Cenobites were barely in it, they're actually in more of this one, so they have more screen time than they did in the first movie. We get a little bit better storytelling with them. However, despite they're in this one, they don't do as much stuff as they did in the first movie. So all in all, this was a pretty good sequel, a pretty good continuation of the first movie. It wasn't as good as the first movie, but in my opinion, this is the second best Hellraiser movie. I'm sure some people will agree with me on that, some people will disagree. To each his own. But I did like this one. It's worth checking out if you're a Hellraiser fan. And that's really all I gotta say. Okay, So that wraps up for the review of Hellbound Hellraiser 2. So stay tuned as this series continues, as I'm going to be reviewing Hellraiser 3 next.